You know, some people just say Jesus Christ like it's a curse word. They use his name in vain. I work with some of those people. They use profanity like artists use paint on a canvas. It's amazing the things that they can come up with. But is that the worst thing that you could do? Is that the worst that you could say about Jesus Christ? I mean, what did his contemporaries say about him? You must be from the devil. What did his neighbors say about him? Who is this guy who gets up here reading this scroll? Isn't this the son of Joseph, the guy who builds houses around here? Is he for real? There's a few people, by the way, that try to stone him. You know what I find that's interesting? Is that one of the worst things you could say about Jesus Christ is that he never rose from the grave. You see, because everything else about his life would just be a really weird and sad story. Think about it for a second. If you didn't have the end of the story, if you didn't know that Jesus Christ arose from the grave, what would you have? Where were his disciples? Where were the sons of thunder? These guys, obviously, they were troublemakers. Where was Peter? Oh, I love Peter. Always putting his foot in his mouth, always jumping into action, always doing what has to be done. Where was he? Does anybody remember who actually goes to the grave early on Sunday morning? You got a hint earlier. These are not hard questions. You got a hint earlier. A bunch of women went to the grave. A bunch of women went to the grave. Now, that doesn't seem so significant. But do you realize that they are the first evangelists? They're the ones that find out the news first. Not Peter, not Thomas, not Matthew, not any of these people that you go, whoa, these are the great disciples soon to become apostles. There were some women that went to the grave. And just so I can give you a little bit of an understanding, the word of a woman in ancient Judaism wasn't held in high regard. So they couldn't go and testify in court. No one would ever take their word on anything regarding anything that was of that kind of importance. So it's strange, to me at least, that the first people that would see that Jesus Christ arose were the women. That's the worst we can say about Jesus, though. That you didn't rise from the grave. You were just some lunatic Jewish guy way back in the day. And maybe you were a cool teacher or philosopher, but you didn't raise from any grave. And if that's the case, then we can all go home. And we don't ever have to do this again. We don't have to go through any motions or any traditions. We can leave all those alone. Because if that was true, then what did happen? What did happen? See, this is a question that we all have to ask ourselves. Whether we've been a Christian for decades, or whether we don't know anything about Christianity, we have to ask a question. Why are people celebrating Easter? Resurrection Sunday? Why? What is it about this particular person that changed all of history? Do Do you realize that being called a Christian, by the way, they weren't called Christians initially. Okay, that term came later on, and it wasn't actually a nice term, to be honest with you. The way it was used was like, those Christians. You ever go to work and somebody finds out you're one of those, oh, it's one of the born-agains. It's like a curse, disgust. People say it with. That's how they said, that's what they told the disciples. Those Christians, those people in the way. I don't know what way they're going. I said it on a Good Friday, right? I said, this was a stumbling block to the Jews. Because their expectation was not that their Messiah was going to end up in a grave. This was foolishness to all the philosophers of the Greek and Roman philosophers, because they said, well, this is insane. Nobody's going to rise from the dead. That's crazy. You guys are delusional. You know what's interesting? That a couple thousand years later, you still have people saying the same thing. So I'm here to ask you a question. What do we say about the resurrection? When someone asks you, why are you a Christian? What do you tell them? Anybody say anything? What is that? I don't get that. What do you mean sins? I have sins? Should I get rid of them? What are they? Do people even know what that is? I thought I was just having fun. See, some people don't even realize that they're sinning. They have no clue. Why is that bad? What do you mean I need to be saved? I'm a good person. Isn't that what we say? I mean, come on. We've all been to a funeral, right? No one ever says, that guy was a real jerk. I hated him at work. You go and you say, oh, I'm sorry for your loss. He was a nice guy. We lie, right? We don't want to say anything bad about somebody that died. But the truth is, he's probably a jerk at work. He may have been like that with his family. We don't know. Very few people ever tell that truth. So we don't really have an answer, do we? I say you're a Christian. Why are you a Christian? Why? Do you know why? I have a problem, right? That I don't know about. My problem is I'm disconnected from God. The problem for some people is even deeper, because they don't even realize there is a God to be disconnected to. Or from, I should say. But one of the worst things that we could possibly ever say about the life of Jesus Christ is that he never rose from the grave. You see, people say all kinds of wonderful things about him. Oh, his teachings. Oh, they were so amazing. Oh, he was a healer. Oh, he was a philosopher of the ages. Oh, what kind of wisdom he had. But that doesn't mean anything unless he died and rose again from that cross and conquered death. Because there were a lot of philosophers, and there are a lot of people that had wisdom. But I don't recall anybody predicting that they will die and rise again on the third day, and actually doing it.